All right, everybody, get ready, because today we're doing a deep dive into Entar.
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 Yeah.
This company, and I say company because we don't even know what to call them yet,
Right.
is making some pretty outlandish claims in the world of real estate.
Yes.
We have been sent, and we've also gotten our hands on, just a treasure trove of documents
Yes.
talking about this company, Entar. We've got stock offerings,
Yeah.
pitches for agents,
Uh-huh.
like recruitment pitches.
Yep.
We even have like backstory on the company.
Not background.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the story of Entar.
The story of Entar.
Yeah.
And they're claiming, I mean, some of these documents, and we quote, are saying things like trillion-dollar valuation,
Yeah.
a whole new way to buy and sell property, tech revolution, all this stuff surrounding this company.
Yeah, they're not small thinkers, are they?
No.
No.
And you are somebody, I would imagine our listeners are people who like to stay ahead of the curve.
Yes.
And that's why we're doing a deep dive to find out, is this the future of real estate or is this a hype bubble?
Yeah. It's like, are they going to be bigger than Google and Amazon?
That's the thing.
Or are they pets.com?
Right. So we need to find out. What's interesting about this company is that, and one of the things that jumped out at me, is they're not even positioning themselves as just like another brokerage.
Well, and that's what's so fascinating to me. In their, I think it's the Rise of Entar document.
Yeah, the rise of Entar, yes.
They actually say, poised to revolutionize the industry.
Oh, yeah, they use the word revolutionize.
Yes. So, again, not thinking small. What's the first thing that jumps out at you with all of this?
So the first thing, and you actually kind of hit on it, was this whole idea of they're not, like you said, just another brokerage.
Yeah.
Their whole business model is centered around their agent, like their agents owning a piece of this company.
Exactly.
So it's not heard of.
They were talking about equity.
Equity.
Which, you don't see that. You don't see that at all in real estate.
Yeah. So instead of an agent just getting a commission from selling a property,
Right.
they could potentially benefit from the entire growth of the company.
Exactly. Yeah. You sell a house, great, you get your commission. But if the company explodes in value, you're along for that ride.
And they're predicting to explode in value.
Exactly.
So you can see why that would be very enticing
Yeah, absolutely.
to a lot of those agents out there.
Especially ambitious ones.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really tempting offer.
It is, but it's not just ownership. It's this whole other thing they're doing, which is like technology.
Yeah, lots of tech talk, AI,
blockchain, and get this, their own cryptocurrency.
Yeah, Entar Coin.
Entar Coin, they call it.
It's like they took every single buzzword, threw it into a blender, and aimed it right at real estate.
Yeah.
Like, what are they actually claiming these technologies will do?
So, and again, we're going based on what they've put out there, but they talk a lot about this thing called predictive analysis.
Okay.
Which is kind of wild, right?
And this is mainly in their stock offering documents, I believe. Yeah, a lot of it is. And it's basically saying, imagine like an AI that can tell you who's likely to move next.
Wow.
What kind of property they want, where they'd want to live.
Yeah, that would be gold.
Right.
If you were a real estate agent, you'd be like,
Sign me up.
Sign me up. Tell me everything.
Right.
So it's like a crystal ball almost is what they're claiming.
Right. Exactly.
But then you get into the blockchain and Entar Coin.
Yeah.
And I don't know, those always feel like a little bit of a wild card.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, they start throwing around terms like fractional real estate.
Okay.
NFTs.
NFTs.
Right. Yeah, like almost, we're going to tokenize a piece of property and you can own like, 1/1,000,000th of this.
Right.
Like a REIT, almost.
Like a digital REIT.
Yeah, but even smaller scale.
Right.
And then this idea of NFTs acting as digital deeds that they talk about. Yeah. Which, some of this is like, I got to be honest, I'm scratching my head a bit.
Yeah, I don't quite get it because they talk about, specifically they mention this in The Rise of Entar, is virtual real estate.
Yeah.
So I get virtual tours, but are we to the point where people are buying and selling virtual properties with Entar Coin? Like, it just seems so far out there.
Yeah, it feels very Ready Player One.
Right.
Right.
Like, it's a little too, sci-fi for me at this point. But then again, 5-10 years ago, I mean, a lot of the stuff we have now would seem like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what makes Entar so fascinating, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they are putting all their chips on technologies that are still evolving.
Right.
And their entire model hinges on these technologies really taking root
Yes.
in the real estate world.
Yeah.
So it's a gamble. It's a huge gamble. But if it pays off.
It's a complete disruption.
Complete disruption.
But Are they really innovating, or are they just really good at buzzwords?
Right, right. And that's the key question here, isn't it?
That's the question.
I mean, they're certainly good at getting attention.
They've gotten ours.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm sure they've gotten our listeners' attention.
Absolutely.
Which is why we're going to continue to deep dive.
Yes, we need to dig deeper.
Need to go deeper on this.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're back, and honestly, my head is still spinning a little bit.
Yeah.
AI real estate agents.
It's the lot.
Blockchain transactions.
It is.
Virtual properties traded like, they're Pokemon cards or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah, it's very forward-looking.
But it's also, these technologies are so new that we have to kind of, I think, take a step back from all the like shiny excitement of it.
The buzz.
Yeah, the buzzwords, exactly.
Right.
And think about like, okay, how realistic is all of this?
Uh-huh.
What are some of the pitfalls that you see with this whole like tech-driven approach?
Well, I mean, just for starters, they want to be a trillion-dollar company.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking of a scale that we haven't seen
Yeah.
really, especially in something like real estate.
Especially in an industry that's, as old as time, really.
Right, exactly. And they're pinning a lot on these technologies that are very much in development.
Yeah. And what happens if AI real estate agents, like what if that just never comes to pass?
Right.
What if it's too difficult? Or blockchain, it's still too complex.
Yeah, what if the adoption isn't there?
Yeah, what if people just aren't ready for that?
Right, they're making a big bet that consumers will be comfortable, owning fractional shares of real estate, virtual real estate.
Right, concepts that, most people listening probably haven't even thought about.
Exactly, exactly. So, they're really going out on a limb here.
But it's not just the technology, right? It's also, we're talking about these agents and they're being promised the world. But what are the downsides for the agents who buy into this model?
Well, I think one thing to consider is, if your income is now tied to equity in the company, you become, by definition, more invested in the company itself, and maybe less so than your individual client needs.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Right. So, is there a potential conflict of interest there where maybe pushing for a quick sale is more enticing even if it's not the best thing for the client?
Right, because you're trying to increase the valuation of the company.
Exactly. Exactly. So, it's one of those things where you have to be careful. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, and especially if, Entar doesn't pan out, doesn't live up to the hype.
Yeah. Are you stuck holding the bag?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing. We just don't have a lot of information. And these documents, they talk a lot about their vision, which is fine. Companies need a vision. But what about the concrete details? What about their financials?
Yeah, and they throw out these big numbers like billion-dollar transactions and things like that. But like you said earlier, without context, those numbers are meaningless.
Right. Were those already in motion before Entar even got involved?
Exactly, yeah. Are they taking credit for other people's,
Exactly.
work, potentially?
Right.
Yeah.
And how does that trickle down to the agent level? We don't know those answers yet.
Yeah, they're selling a dream, there's no doubt.
Oh, absolutely.
But you need more than just a dream.
And dreams are powerful.
Yeah.
Your dreams can motivate, but you need, especially when it comes to your livelihood, you need more than just a good story. You need some proof. You need to see that vision can actually be put into practice.
So it sounds like, yes, AI-powered insights, owning a piece of the company, that all sounds really enticing, but we need to proceed with caution.
A healthy dose of skepticism is never a bad thing.
I like that, a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, when you're looking at a company like this, you have to balance the excitement of what could be with, like you said, that skepticism.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think, don't just take their word for it.
Yeah.
Go out there, ask the tough questions, do your own digging, look for independent reviews, talk to agents who have experience with Entar. And if something doesn't feel right, don't be afraid to walk away.
Yeah, walk away. Okay, good advice, good advice. So balance the excitement of what could be a real estate revolution.
Right.
With that healthy dose of skepticism.
Exactly. And that's something we can talk about more after the break.
Okay.
This whole idea of, they're really pushing this open source philosophy.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll get into that. We'll get into that next.
So we are back, and we've talked about the tech. We've talked about, the agents, but there's this whole other thing with Entar.
Yeah.
This whole open source thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. They use that phrase a lot.
They do.
In their materials. Like it's this, core value.
It's like badge of honor.
Yeah, a badge of honor, but they never really defined what it means.
Yeah, it's like, we're open source. Okay, well, what does that mean for
Right.
real estate? Like, I get it with software, right?
Right.
Open source software, the code's available.
Right.
Anybody can use it, modify it. But how do you open source buying and selling property?
Exactly. What are they actually sharing? Are they talking about data? Algorithms? Their business model? Like, who gets access to this?
Right.
Just their agent.
Right. Is it other, like, brokerages, other real estate companies?
Yeah, the public.
The public?
Like, what are we talking about here?
And why? That's the other thing. Like, what's the motivation
Right.
behind this whole open source philosophy?
Well, I mean, on the one hand, typically when you hear open source, it's about transparency.
Right.
It's about, community involvement.
Collaboration.
Collaboration, exactly.
Innovation.
Faster innovation, yeah.
Right. Because it's like an open forum where everybody can contribute.
Exactly, yeah. So, in the context of real estate, maybe that means a more level playing field,
Okay.
right? Where, smaller agencies
Guys.
can compete
Okay.
because they have access to the same tools and technologies as the big players.
So maybe that's part of their play to disrupt.
Could be. Could be. And, potentially it could lead to faster development of new tools and services.
Yeah, if everybody's sharing.
Exactly. Everybody's collaborating, yeah.
Okay. But like any system, I'm sure there are downsides, right? What are the risks associated with this?
Well, I mean, one concern is always quality control.
Yeah, if everybody's got their hands in it.
Right. If everybody's modifying and redistributing, I mean, how do you make sure that it's still working?
Right. And that it's being used properly.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, there's the risk of misuse.
Okay. Yeah. Exploitation.
Exploitation, yeah.
Somebody takes advantage of the system.
For their own personal gain, right?
Yeah.
At the expense of others, yeah.
Okay. And also, I mean, we have to remember, Entar is a business. They're not a charity. So how do they plan on making money?
Right, right. And that's the thing. We don't really know. I mean, their talk of open source, it feels very aspirational.
Right.
Not very operational yet.
Yeah. So again, it's a bit of a head scratcher.
It is a bit of a question mark.
It's a question mark. So this open source thing, it's a big maybe.
It is. It is.
Big maybe, which is honestly kind of the theme with Entar. Big maybes.
I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've gone really deep on Entar. We've gone into their goals, their tech, this whole open source approach.
You've covered a lot of ground.
We've had moments of like, oh, wow, this is amazing. This is the future. And then moments of like, I don't know about this.
Right. A healthy mix of excitement and skepticism.
And I think that's the perfect place to leave it because honestly, that's where we're at. We don't have all the answers.
And that's okay. We're not going to have all the answers today.
Only time will tell with Entar.
Exactly.
But this is where you come in, dear listener.
This is where the journey continues for you.
Exactly, because you've got all this information. Now, go out there.
Do your research.
Do your own research. Ask your own questions.
Come to your own conclusions.
Exactly. Because knowledge is power, people, especially in this crazy world we're living in.
Absolutely.
And if there's one thing for sure, it's only going to get crazier.
It certainly will.
All right, everybody. Until next time, keep your eyes open, keep your minds curious, and we will see you on the next deep dive.